Hello and welcome back. You're watching WION The World, and this is World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar. Let's begin with the headlines. United States deploys its most advanced aircraft carrier to the Caribbean, a major escalation in the war against drug cartels. The USS Gerald Ford will join American military buildup in the region, including 10 F-35 stealth warplanes and at least 8 U.S. Navy ships. Supporters of President Gustavo Petro rally in Bogota after the United States imposed sanctions on the Colombian leader. Sanctions follow accusations from President Donald Trump that Colombia has failed to curb cocaine trafficking. The U.S. media report says the U.S. military is flying drones over the Gaza Strip to monitor the ceasefire. As top diplomat Marco Rubio says the Trump plan is the only plan for Gaza. Hamas and other main Palestinian political factions agreed to hand over the running of post-war Gaza to an independent panel. A Palestinian committee composed of technocrats would manage Gaza in cooperation with Arab nations and international institutions. UK promises new missiles to Ukraine at the coalition of the willing in London. President Zelensky says Russia wants to make cold winter tool to pressure Ukraine. Indian Trade Minister Piyush Goyal calls out West's hypocrisy on oil, says when Europe buys Russian gas, it's energy security. When India buys discounted oil, it's sanctions evasion. The Financial Action Task Force, FATF, sounds cautionary note on Pakistan's 2022 exit from its grey list, warning that delisting is not a foolproof shield against terror financing or money laundering. Thailand's former queen, Siddiki, the mother of the current king and wife of the nation's longest reigning monarch, died late Friday at the age of 93. She was known as a fashion icon globally and a unifying symbol nationally. U.S. stocks surged to record highs Friday, boosted by cooler than expected inflation and strong corporate earnings. S&P 500, Nasdaq, and Dow all posted major weekly gains as investors look ahead to big tech earnings next week and are expected to Fed rate cut. Well, of course, the top story. U.S. is stepping up its military buildup in the Caribbean amid rising tensions with Venezuela. Pentagon has deployed its most advanced aircraft carrier to the region. Venezuela's leader warns that the move is steered at fabricating a war. U.S. President Donald Trump has launched a military campaign targeting boats allegedly used to smuggle narcotics in the region. destroying at least 10 vessels in a series of strikes. The U.S. has already deployed at least 8 U.S. Navy ships, a submarine, and 10 F-35 stealth warplanes to the area near to the coast of Venezuela. Now, the USS Gerald Ford, with its dozens of stealth fighter jets and surveillance aircraft, will join the existing 4 U.S. force in the area. The career announcement came after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said an overnight strike on a boat alleged to be operated by a Venezuelan drug trafficking gang, Tren de Aragua. He said 6 people died in the latest strike, bringing the death toll from such strikes to at least 43. The American military buildup has sparked fears in Venezuela that Washington's ultimate goal is the overthrow of President Nicolas Maduro. Late on Friday, Maduro accused the Trump administration of stoking a new eternal war.
And the people of the United States know it. They're making up a new eternal war. They promise that they will never enter a war, and they're making up a war that we will avoid. How? With the mobilization of the peoples of South America. As South America and the Caribbean all say, no to war, yes to peace, yes to prosperity, yes to harmony and living together.
The U.S.-Venezuela standoff has also pulled in Colombia's Gustavo Petro, a sharp critic of the American strikes. Petro, who has accused Trump of murder over the strikes on the alleged drug boats, was sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury on Friday, along with his wife and son. Trump has said he does not need a declaration of war from U.S. lawmakers to attack Venezuela or other countries he accuses of involvement in the drug trade, warning that strikes on land are coming. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani sent us this report from New York.
The USS Gerald Ford and its strike group have been ordered by U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to deploy to the waters of South America under the purview of the United States Southern Command. The move is being framed as a mission to bolster U.S. capacity to detect, disrupt, and monitor illicit actors and activities that threaten U.S. safety and prosperity. It comes amid an escalation of military operations in the Caribbean and off the waters of Venezuela, including recent U.S. strikes on suspected drug smuggling boats. 43 people have died so far since September as a result. While the official line emphasizes anti-narcotic aims, many analysts view the deployment as a broader show of force in the hemisphere. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
And while the clock is ticking, Washington's patience is razor thin. A clear ultimatum delivered, Netanyahu must hold. A frantic rush of top U.S. team was rushed to Israel, an 11th hour bid to slam the brakes on a new Gaza assault and plans to annex West Bank. Now that could rupture the fragile West Asia peace. Now our next report analyzes all that. Take a look.
The air crackled with tension. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Trump's trusted envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, blitzed into Israel. A clear message sent upon their arrival: stand down. This is not routine diplomacy. This is crisis management. Then came the Knesset vote. While Vance was still in Israel, Israeli lawmakers on Wednesday advanced 2 bills paving the way for occupied West Bank's annexation. Netanyahu's own Likud party boycotted the vote, though members of his ruling coalition supported formal annexation. The move drew furious reaction from the American vice president.
It was a very stupid political stunt, and I personally take some insult to it. The West Bank is not going to be annexed by Israel.
Arab and Muslim countries, which Trump has been courting to provide troops and money for a stabilization force in Gaza, warn that annexation of West Bank is a red line. Back in Washington, Trump assures that Israel won't annex the already occupied West Bank.
The West Bank is, don't worry about the West Bank. Israel's not going to do anything with the West Bank, okay? Don't worry about it.
Also because behind closed doors, American officials believe that Netanyahu might deliberately sabotage the ceasefire that Trump just brokered. Inside Gaza, a fragile ceasefire has brought temporary respite to the Palestinians, exhausted by 2 years of fighting. But even without the daily bombing, they are struggling to live amid the catastrophic destruction caused by Israeli bombing.
The shelling and bombing are what forced us to leave. We returned and the shelling did not stop. I swear we left the Abasan area and the shells were falling like rain.
The IDF continue to drop leaflets warning residents to avoid the so-called yellow line, the boundary behind which Israeli troops have pulled back and for the moment remain stationed under the current phase of the ceasefire.
There should be concerns as long as there are matters yet to be settled. There is still a yellow line and a red line. There is no Israeli withdrawal. Of course, we have to be afraid. We won't be afraid when there is an Israeli withdrawal to the pre-war borders. Only then there won't be fear.
They said there is a truce and we wanted to return to our homes. We have been humiliated while getting drinking water, finding shelters, and the brutal cold weather. We wanted to return safely, but there is no safety. This is not a life. This is not a life.
Inside Israel, tension is rising. Netanyahu's war cabinet faces mounting pressure from hardliners demanding total victory. While the US urges diplomacy first, West Asia stands on the edge. One misstep, one strike too far, and the region could slip into another war neither side can afford. Least of all, thousands of innocent Palestinians. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
Now, in the latest tariff tussle between U.S. and Canada, U.S. President Donald Trump has defended his decision to suspend negotiations with Ottawa. Now, standing by his decision, Trump has taken his trade against Canada, accusing the neighboring country of trying to illegally influence a critical case in the U.S. Supreme Court pertaining to the legitimacy of global reciprocal tariffs. In a Truth Social post, Trump said, and I'm quoting, "Canada cheated and got caught. They fraudulently took a big buy," ad saying that Ronald Reagan did not like tariffs when he actually loved tariffs for our country and its national security. Canada is trying to illegally influence the United States Supreme Court in one of the most important rulings in the history of our country. Now, the ad referred to in Trump's claims is an Ontario advertisement which features former American President Ronald Reagan. Here is an excerpt from the 1978 speech of the former Republican leader, which is critical of tariffs.
Now, that message of free trade is one I conveyed to Canada's leaders a few weeks ago, and it was warmly received there. Indeed, throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity.
Now, this speech from decades past promotes free and fair trade among countries and denounces a protectionist approach, which is the opposite of what incumbent U.S. president is advocating for, the America First approach. The television ad, funded by the Ontario government, had aimed to sow doubt among Republican voters using one of the party's most iconic voices. The ad was set to run until the end of January next year and cost about 75 million Canadian dollars. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has now said he will pause the advertisement. Ford said he made the decision after speaking to Prime Minister Mark Carney on Friday, adding that the TV spot will be paused on Monday so that trade talks can resume. The deal talks between both the countries comes at a critical time for the legality of Trump's tariff reforms. The U.S. Supreme Court has granted extra time for oral arguments in an important case which challenges Trump's authority as president on levying sweeping tariffs across the world. Now, usually oral arguments last 60 minutes. Both sides are given 30 minutes to argue, but given the criticality of this case, court has expanded that time to 80 minutes for the hearing set for November 5th. The U.S. president has himself said that the case is so crucial that he might attend the hearing personally. The case hinges on two questions. Question one, if the International Emergency Economic Powers Act authorizes Trump to levy the tariffs. Question number two is, if IEEPA authorizes the tariffs, does the statute unconstitutionally delegate legislative authority to the president? Now, the future of tariffs and diplomatic relations now hinges on court's decision in this pivotal case. Will it change the face of global trade, diplomacy, and economy? Or will its verdict put a halt on Trump's tariff war and trigger a domestic crisis by averting a global one? All right, moving on. The Financial Action Task Force has issued a stern warning to Pakistan, saying its removal from the gray list 2 years ago does not mean it's protected from terror financing or money laundering. In response to WION's question at the conclusion of October plenary, FATF President Elisa Deanda Madrazo emphasized that the countries like Pakistan remain under scrutiny even after exiting the list. Pakistan's removal from the FATF grey list in 2022 marked the end of a 4-year stint under heightened scrutiny, its third since 2008. It completed a 34-point action plan enacting legislative reforms, bolstering financial oversight, and prosecuting terror financiers to secure its exit. This was seen as a lifeline for its beleaguered economy, easing access to international markets and IMF bailouts. According to Indian intelligence assessments, the Pakistan-based terrorist group Jaish-e-Mohammed has leveraged digital payment platforms like EasyPaisa and to amass $14 million constructing 313 new terror training facilities across the country. This development comes after India's Operation Sindoor on May 7th, a precision strike that demolished JEM's Markaz Subhanallah and 4 other camps, eliminating many operatives. In response, the group launched a brazen fundraising campaign on social media. Now, when asked about concerns over digital fundraising, the FATF president told WION that countries that have been delisted are under a follow process to ensure compliance with global anti-terror financing standards. She underscored that no nation is immune post-delisting, warning that the countries that exit the gray list are not bulletproof against the actions of criminals.
Pakistan was removed from our gray list in October of 2022. And as any country that is removed from the list, we continue a process of follow-up. And in this case, because Pakistan is not a member of the FATF, but a member of the Asia Pacific Group, APG, that follow-up is being carried by APG. What I can tell you is that any country that is in the gray list, but that exits the gray list, is not bulletproof for actions of criminals, either money launderers or terrorists.
The FATF has also reaffirmed its commitment to strengthening its standards and implementation to prevent terrorist financing globally. This comes after the Pahalgam terror attack in India, which was condemned by FATF in June. The Resistance Front, a proxy of the Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba, claimed responsibility for the attack.
Do invite all jurisdictions, including those that have been delisted, to continue their good work to prevent and deter crimes. Now, as it relates to terrorist attacks in any place, in any jurisdiction, the FATF remains committed to continue strengthening our standards and their implementation through our assessments and our process to make sure we can benefit the people by having less terrorist financing.
Pakistan, a member of the Asia-Pacific Group on Money Laundering, will be monitored by the regional body which enforces FATF standards across Asia-Pacific. Established in 1997, the APG ensures member states combat money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation financing. Now, President Trump's decision to cancel trade talks with Canada goes beyond being frustrated by Ontario's anti-tariff advertisement. He accused Canada of attempting to illegally influence a pending Supreme Court case regarding tariffs. Now, that clearly shows Trump is extremely concerned about the top court's verdict on the legality of his tariffs. In a social media post, Trump said, "Canada cheated and got caught. They fraudulently took a big buy ad saying that Ronald Reagan did not like tariffs when he actually loved tariffs for our country and its national security." The television ad funded by the Ontario government had aimed to sow doubt among Republican voters using one of the party's most iconic voices, former U.S. President Ronald Reagan. Trump questioned the timings of Ontario's anti-tariff ad campaign. He said that the move appears timed to interfere with a looming Supreme Court case challenging the legality of his signature tariff policy. The president also warned of disaster if the top court overturns his country-based tariffs. That includes forcing the government to refund companies billions of dollars in already paid duties. The court is scheduled to hear oral arguments in the case on November 5th. Trump said Canada is trying to illegally influence the United States Supreme Court in one of the most important rulings in the history of our country. In another post, he suggested that the U.S. was wealthy, powerful, and nationally secure again because of his tariff policy. Separately, Trump also argued that the stock market was now stronger than ever before because of tariffs. That came after Wall Street stocks extended their October advance, with the S&P 500 hitting all-time highs on Friday. The boost was driven by softer than expected U.S. inflation in September, with the tariff effects remaining limited. Now on Friday, the S&P 500 rose about 1%, hitting 6,800 points for the first time ever. The rally was driven by bets that cooler inflation will give the green light for more Fed policy easing and power corporate earnings. Apart from inflation data not showing the tariff effects, July and August customs revenue numbers imply a realized import duty rate of around 10%, that is well below the 18% rate estimate based on the announced tariffs. The September customs revenue data also showed no signs of an acceleration. That, however, questions Trump's claims of massive tariff collection. Now, global music sensation Katy Perry turns 41 today. From bursting onto the scene with colorful anthems to becoming a judge on American Idol, her journey has been nothing short of dynamic. Born Catherine Elizabeth Hudson on October 25, 1984 in California, Perry rose to fame with her 2008 hit I Kissed a Girl, which shook pop culture and marked the arrival of a new pop powerhouse. Her follow-up album, Teenage Dream, solidified her status as a global star, featuring 5 #1 singles, including Firework, California Girls, and Last Friday Night. She became the first female artist to achieve that since Michael Jackson. Beyond music, the artist has made her mark as a businesswoman and philanthropist, launching her fragrance line supporting LGBTQ rights and using her platform to promote mental health awareness. But the star's career has not been without headlines. She faced controversies over cultural appropriation in some of her performances and feuds with other celebrities, most notably Taylor Swift, which made pop history before the two finally made peace. Today, the 41-year-old remains one of the pop's most charismatic figures. All right, with that, we call a wrap to World DNA right now. Right after a short break, there comes more news and updates. Do stay tuned. You're watching Beyond World is One.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at WION.com.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
As Indian cinephiles cheer for Chandra in Malayalam film Loka Chapter 1, we take a look at cinema's most iconic female superheroes. Know all about cinema stars who started behind the lens, and get a lowdown on celebrities' obsession with mom couture. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.